Senator Moody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations on your nomination. Congratulations to your family. I can't think of a better person at this moment in time to lead such an important agency. Talking about Americans trusting their local law enforcement, I think that is true. I think that's one of the reasons, as the Attorney General in Florida, I worked so closely with our law enforcement, our local law enforcement, to make sure we were triaging our resources and going after really bad people that wanted to harm our community in a way to make our state safer. And part of doing that is we supported them. We made sure that they had resources, they had more the support behind them. They knew that we had their backs. I'm proud that Florida was the first state to have every single county sign up to work with the federal government, because we were dealing with an unprecedented situation following the last administration where you had people working with radicals in that administration to destroy the border, roll out a welcome mat to everyone, and has left our nation reeling from an unprecedented surge of people we don't know who are here, many of which, before they even got here, had committed crimes and have committed crimes since. The way to recover and shore up our communities is to work with, in partnership, local law enforcement who have an expertise in their communities. And it is disheartening to me, not just as a former attorney general or as a former prosecutor, but as the wife of a law enforcement officer and someone that worked very closely with them, it wrecks me to hear them refer to law enforcement in general, especially some of the men and women that serve currently in the Department of Homeland Security, as breaking into people's homes and shooting Americans. And I think we can all acknowledge that we want law enforcement to meet professional standards, to act with the public safety in mind, to comply with the law. But we do not have to disparage an entire profession of men and women who put their lives on the line for you and for everyone in this room, and said that they were going to dedicate their professional careers to stand on that line and put their safety behind yours. When President Trump got in office, so many of these states on the Democratic side said, I will never work with that man to come in and correct and rid the communities of people that are going to do it harm. We won't. In Minnesota, the first thing they said, I will never help that person. I won't lift a finger, the Attorney General said. So in Florida, where you have 67 out of 67 counties signing up, tell me what I can do to help you. In Minnesota, they had like 7 of 87. Does that surprise anyone? No, because their state leader said, we will not help you. We will not go after the most dangerous in our communities. Have at it. See how it goes. We won't lift a finger. And when the administration says we are dealing with an unprecedented situation, 11 to 20 million people, that's never happened in the history of our country, how do we do this? We need to make sure we're focusing on triaging and getting people out that we know may do harm to our communities. They're like, what are you talking about? You can't have quotas. They won't talk about the quotas where they said we're put to Border Patrol, push more and more and more and more in. However you need to do it. Don't tell us how we can stop this influx or this surge. Tell us how we can push more in. They won't talk about that. And they want to tell you about focusing on children that are here, that are now here. Yes, you need to do that. As somebody that has pushed to protecting children and fought against trafficking with law enforcement's help, yes, you need to do that. But I loved how you said, let's talk about the tens of thousands of children that the federal government helped traffic under the Biden administration that we lost. And when they were made aware of it, they ignored it. You will now have to take over an agency that is charged with cleaning up a disaster, a danger. The Biden administration did that. I cannot think of a better person, someone who acts passionately and fiercely fights for the people he loves and someone who loves this country and thinks of other people before himself. I am telling you, in Congress, there are all kinds of personality types. But this man came up to me time and time again as the newest United States Senator and said, what can I do to help you? How can we make this place work? How can we get this done? And I look over the course of your life. You left school when your father got sick to go help your family business. That's the kind of person you are. The kind of person that stands up for every person in this office. That's the kind of person, passionate, fierce, a fighter, loyal. That's who I want now, protecting this country at the head of the Department of Homeland Security. You said in your testimony, I'll fight for your family just as I fight for mine. Tell me about that personality trait and how you think that will help the Department of Homeland Security in this unprecedented time where the last administration, the last president of the United States, abandoned his role to secure this country. Tell me how you bring the personality and your character traits to this role.
It's the way I was raised. It's the way my my dad raised us, the way my mom raised us, the way they were raised. We love this country. Think about it. I'm getting to live the American dream. You're telling me a kid from Westville, Oklahoma with a speech impediment would ever be able to be here? That only happens in America. Only in America. And we all probably have the same type of dreams because none of us have royal blood. Maybe some of your parents might have served in public office or not. Mine most certainly did not. And the fact that I'm here, my goodness, that's why people want to come to our country, because they want the American dream. And I want everybody to have the same opportunity that I have, but we have to secure the homeland. We have to make sure that they feel safe stepping out and being in the public eye. We got to make sure that people can have a peace of mind and trust our government. And right now there's a mistrust in our government. I think we have an opportunity to maybe work on that. I meant it when I say that I hope in 6 months we're not. I can't guarantee it because the news choose what they're going to run. But I hope that I'm not on the news every 6 months or 6 months from now every day. I hope DHS is just able to be laser focused on doing their job and isn't controversial about taking care of the homeland. I hope people have confidence in our agency again. And I'm going to work every day to restore that.
And you'll bring that same passion and zeal and protective instinct to protect every family and every community, working with local law enforcement because they know how to approach in a safe manner their communities.
Nobody will take care of their backyard better than the individual.
Senator Gallego.
Thank you, Chairman. Hello, neighbor. How you doing? Easy day.
Hey, brother. Good to see you.
So some very specific questions. What is the primary mission of Homeland Security investigations?
From the IG or from us?
I'm sorry, from Homeland Security Department. There's HSI is within Homeland Security. What is their primary mission?
Well,
it's not a trick question either.
No, I understand that. And every agency, sir, we have specific missions that we are targeted to look at our aspect of protecting the homeland. In different directions, have different paths. And in different agencies, region-wide, there are 22 of them there. We all need to be in the same boat, row in the same direction, working for one common goal. And as I said, that's protect the homeland, bring peace of mind, and secure the confidence of the American people. Okay,
so HSI, and being from Arizona, we're very familiar with CBP, ICE, and HSI. HSI specifically is very important because they specialize in dealing with human trafficking, human smuggling, counterfeit, bank fraud, things of that nature. Actually, I have a lot of friends that have worked for them forever. The reason I bring this up is because there is confirmed reports that the Secretary of Homeland Security has ordered HSI agents, pull them off what I just told you were very important missions, to go to Arizona and investigate the 2020 election results, right? That's a very big concern of mine because these agents should be doing the work they're doing. A lot of them already are, field ICE agents instead of actually doing these long-term investigations. But now they're not even doing the ICE enforcement. They're literally going back and looking into conspiracy theories. So, for my experience and seeing you both on the House and the Senate, do you believe that Joe Biden won Arizona in the 2020 presidential election? The reason I ask is because, again, you're potentially deploying HSI agents to Arizona to check a result using our taxpayer dollars to follow up on a conspiracy theory.
Sir, I'm not familiar with what the former secretary did here, and nor I'm here to debate what happened in 2020. I do know that there's an opportunity to look at 2020 and make sure that anything that went wrong we can fix moving forward, because what we wanted to make sure is that in the next election, be it the midterms or in 2028, the American people trust our election system. Trust is vitally important. I want to always look at past mistakes and past successes, because I've addressed this multiple times, and I know everybody's busy here, and I know you didn't get to hear me earlier. But Senator, I think we can always do better, and I want to do that. Just like you and I, we've worked on immigration issues before, but because we both know we can do it better.
But you're talking about perspective. I'm talking about going back, and the fact that we're using Homeland Security funds, investigators that should be using their time and value more to check onto something that, by the way, had multiple independent audits, even one run by the Senate Republican and Senate State House representatives that passed, accuracy tests, hand counts, 14 court cases that were confirmed that Biden won in my state. And so when I have personal friends that are HSI agents, friends that I know are telling me they are now being diverted from their duties, and what they're doing is they're instead of investigating child sex trafficking, child abusers, drug traffickers, which I don't disagree, we have not been doing the best at, and certainly I think a lot of that was under the Biden administration, did not do that sufficiently. But now instead of it not being done, now we have the opposite, where some of these best trained people are being ordered by somebody within the chain of command of the White House, which I get to quest later, to go investigate this false this false conspiracy theory, right? And like, as much as, for me, a concern of mine, because, I do know you very personally, and we got into work together. I think you're an upstanding guy, and I reject this idea that you're not qualified for this job 100%. But when it comes to something as existential as this, that's when I have to start questioning, are you going to be in charge of a department that's going to say, you know what, HSI should not be used for this? As a matter of fact, no one in the Department of Homeland Security should be used to do and investigate an election conspiracy. So that's, what I want to communicate on this. I really urge you just to end the investigation. There's no reason why we need to go relegating back to 2020. There certainly isn't any reason why we should be using these highly trained professionals that should be going after some horrible people to be investigating conspiracy theories that have been litigated multiple times and put them back where they were. Moving on from there, my other concern is something that I saw, with the previous secretary, and something that I've seen in myself in my time in the Marines, is that a chain of command is very important. I don't believe there was a real chain of command that was in the Secretary of Homeland Security. And when I say that, it's because I think Stephen Miller was the person who was actually calling the shots there, and you could see the results of what occurred. You had men and women in ICE and CBP that felt that they were unaccountable, talking to actual ICE and CBP agents from Arizona that got deployed to Minnesota. They don't know who really was in their chain of command. They didn't have operational orders. A lot of them did not understand, how to actually engage with the public at all. And when there was a point of who is responsible for making decisions, they could not figure out if it was Miller or if it was Secretary Noem and her deputies. They couldn't figure out if there were quotas versus there are quotas. Now we know that there are quotas. This is the problem. Is I want to make sure that if you're there, you're in charge and not Stephen Miller.
Sir, the President has nominated me to be Secretary of Homeland, and I'll take full responsibility for that. Chain of command is important. I believe in empowering people to make decisions, but I will still be talking to the President on a regular basis. And any policy that is within my realm of authority that you guys give us, if the President wants us to look at it, we'll look at it, because I serve at his discretion.
Yeah. One thing I don't know if it's been mentioned here, you would be the only second Native American in the history of the country to be a cabinet member, which I appreciate. And that I also do a lot of work with our Native American communities, the 22 federally recognized tribes in Arizona. And the one concern I also have is that when it comes to building some of these installations on the border, there has been very, very little to no tribal consultation, especially with some of our border tribes, the Total Odom Nation, where we are building walls in areas that doesn't have much like ESL. So I have problems with the English once in a while too. There's a border wall that is going through tribal land that is in very sacred land that is not crossed and used significantly by human smugglers. It's important that DHS actually speak to these communities. They actually have programs that they do where they actually are working with DHS and local law enforcement to stop illegal smuggling, called Shadow Wolf program that DHS supports. But this last administration in DHS did not talk to them whatsoever. Did not talk about, did not even give the vague idea of tribal consultation, and now they're just building into some areas that has, unfortunately, some burials of some of their the people from their tribe. And so I think it's important that we reestablish tribal sovereignty, and I hope because of your background you'll understand and appreciate that.
I respect tribal sovereignty, and there's a lot of technology. Now, we do have a job to secure the border, but we will work with tribal nations because there's other ways to have a physical barrier where you can have technology there too. And I don't think anybody would complain about that. But yes, my background. We have worked on tribal issues a lot, and I appreciate your passion. And I have a lot of good friends in Arizona with tribes that that we've been able to have good relationships with.
And these tribal nations would absolutely work with you as long as they felt that there was the respect and also respect for the land, because we have a history of that. And Mr. Chairman, I'm up.
We're going to come back around if you have a question. Senator Hawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Mullin, welcome to the committee. I see you have some supporters with you today. Chairman Smith, good to see you. My friend Sean O'Brien is here. I want the record to reflect that my money was always on O'Brien. I just want that noted. I want it noted for the record. Senator Mullin, let me ask you this. In your own words, could you tell us just in capsule form, what is it that DHS, what's the mission of DHS as you understand it, as you would put it, as you would explain it?
Quite simply, it's simple: to protect the homeland.
Very good. To protect the homeland. Okay, let me ask you this. 10 days ago, there was a shooting at Old Dominion University that left one person dead, 2 people critically injured. The gunman had potential terrorist ties. Is this a good time for the Department of Homeland Security to be shut down and unfunded?
It's the worst time, and keep in mind, we just came up a 43-day shutdown, as this is the third time in a year, and it's devastating to the morale of the men and women we have tasked to take care of all of us, all the homeland, regardless if it's a blue state or it's a red state. We have to look at it all the same, and they have that mission mindset, but they don't have the pay to follow it up.
A few days before that, 2 individuals attempted to detonate bombs in New York City in a way that would cause mass civilian casualties. Both of those individuals have potential terrorist connections. In light of that, is it a good time for DHS to be shut down?
Sir, I think with the current conditions, this is the worst time we could possibly do it.
A few days before that, in Austin, Texas, 3 people were fatally shot outside of a bar there when a gunman opened fire in the early hours of a Sunday morning. That gunman also had potential terrorist ties, and yet DHS is shut down. Just a week ago, a gunman loaded his truck with incendiary devices and rammed it into the Temple Israel Synagogue outside Detroit, Michigan. As I'm sure you know, 40 law enforcement officers, 40, had to get emergency medical attention. It's a miracle. By the grace of God, nobody was killed except for the gunman. But 40 individuals had to get medical attention, and yet DHS is still shut down. Let me just ask you this. Law enforcement dangers. I think I've got a poster that'll go up behind me here. In the last year alone, we have seen an 8,000% increase in death threats to law enforcement, a 1,300% increase in assaults, a 124% increase in vehicular attacks using a vehicle, against a CBP law enforcement. Now, in light of this, is it a good time for DHS to be shut down?
Sir, it's a horrible time.
Let's talk about children. Let's talk about the dangers to children. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children estimates that there are 20.5 million reports of suspected online and child exploitation. That includes almost 20 million reports of child pornography, 546,300 reports of online enticement of children for sexual acts, and 27,000 reports of child sex trafficking. Is it a good time for DHS to be shut down?
No, sir.
Let me ask you if you've seen this poster that I'm about to put behind me. Have you ever seen this before, Senator?
I don't believe so.
There's no reason you should have. I was introduced to this material by Tim Tebow, the Heisman Trophy winner, who now spends a lot of his time trying to help work with child victims of sex abuse. This poster reflects every individual IP address in the United States in about a 1-month period that was sharing, distributing, posting, or trading child sex abuse material or child pornography of some form. You want to guess how many points there are on that map?
It makes me sick. I have no idea.
338,000. That's just a 1-month period. Now, can you see any blue dots on that map, Senator Mullin?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's you got better eyes than I do. I mean, there's like very few of them. I'd be surprised if anybody in the audience could see them. The blue dots are the number of investigations that are open. Look at the red dots, 338,000. Look at the blue dots, you can hardly see them. Why would that be? Because in the best of times, the Department of Homeland Security has only 10 HSI agents who are fully dedicated to doing this. It's all Congress has given you, 10. Right now, none of those are funded. Is this a good time for the Department of Homeland Security to be shut down?
I think any parent can look at that and it makes you sick, especially with teenage daughters like myself. That's scary. We have to focus on this.
It's very scary. That's exactly right. I'm glad to hear you say that. The Biden administration and your predecessor in this role, Alejandro Mayorkas, lost track of 450,000 children who were trafficked across our border over a 4-year period. 450,000 children. It's the biggest child trafficking ring that was set up under the last administration in the history of this country. The president has been doing a tremendous job. They found in the last year over 145,000 of them. That leaves almost 300,000 who are still missing. And yet the Department of Homeland Security is unfunded and shut down. Let me just ask you again, does it seem like a good time for that?
No, sir.
Let's talk a little bit about the challenges that are being faced by people across the country who are facing natural disasters, as we have in my home state of Missouri. We had major tornadoes rip through Missouri last spring, all across the state, particularly concentrated in the eastern part of the state, the St. Louis area, southeast Missouri. We have thousands of people who are without power, who lost their homes, many who were injured. We have had much disaster aid approved by FEMA, but we're still waiting for some of that aid to get to us. And now FEMA is shut down. So I've got thousands of people in Missouri who are awaiting the aid that the president has approved, by the way, and that FEMA has approved, but that's in the process of coming to the state. I've got probably hundreds of people who are not able to go back to their homes and who are applying for individual assistance that hasn't yet been processed by FEMA. And now they're being told, well, sorry, there's nothing we can do because FEMA's shut down. Does this seem like a good time for DHS and FEMA to be shut down?
No, sir.
In any airport in the country right now, if you go and look, you will find hours, backups of 4 and 5 hours. You'll find TSA agents. You alluded to this earlier, Senator. Over 10% of TSA agents now are not able to come to the job. Why? Because they make on average $45,000 a year. They can't afford their rent. They can't afford to buy groceries for their kids. They've missed now 2 paychecks. This is endangering the security of our flyers. It's endangering the security of our airports. This is a terrible time for DHS to be shut down. Here's my point. Whether we're talking about children who are missing, whether we're talking about the situation against our law enforcement officers, whether we're talking about the dangers to the homeland, we are involved in a major conflict overseas. This nation's homeland needs to be secured, and yet my friends across the aisle have shut down the Department of Homeland Security. They have defunded every agency we just talked about, and I just want to ask them, how long is it going to take? How long are these children going to have to wait in exploitation? How many more are going to have to go missing? How many TSA agents are going to be able to afford to put food on the table for their children? How long are the people of St. Louis and Southeast Missouri going to have to wait to get back into their homes before we can finally have a vote to reopen the Department of Homeland Security? It is long past time. I welcome your nomination. You're going to be a terrific leader of Homeland Security. I can't wait to see you there. But it's time for this Congress to do its job and fund DHS and protect the homeland of the United States of America. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We are going to do another round of questions. I want to let anybody ask a question that wants to ask a question, but I really don't want to give everybody 7 more minutes. I want to kind of keep it to pressing questions. We'll start on the Republican side. Does somebody have a pressing question they didn't get to ask or would like to ask?
I'll yield back.
Anybody else? Senator Ernst.
Yes, thank you. Again, Senator Mullin, I truly appreciate you being here. And I do want to ask some questions. I do want to follow up. So many people have pointed out the various departments that exist and are not being funded under DHS. So we have a really, really significant anniversary coming up this year. So most people will think it's our nation's 250th, which is extraordinary. But the other significant anniversary that has impacted so many of us, especially those of us that have served in uniform, significant anniversary, the 25th year of September 11th, 2001. So right now, we are currently in our 32nd day of the Department of Homeland Security being shut down. We have men and women serving in TSA, in FEMA, in the Coast Guard, Secret Service, in the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, all of them under DHS, not being funded. Now, I just heard in the first round of questions, one of my colleagues on the left say, this has nothing to do with ICE. They are funded. If it has nothing to do with ICE, why are we not funding these agencies that protect Americans? Especially as we're coming up on the 25th anniversary of September 11th this fall. It's a significant anniversary. I hope never to repeat it. But the fact of the matter is that there is a greater possibility of September 11th happening all over again because we are not properly funding the men and women that protect our homeland. So I don't want to hear folks say it has nothing to do with ICE, because I do believe when we get into the politics of this, it is about ICE. It is about ICE. So I would love for my friends on the left to acknowledge it's about ICE, but acknowledge that protecting our homeland is much more important than the politics of this. Yes, question. Senator Mullin, do you think it's time to set aside the partisan politics and partisan games and fund DHS as a whole so that the department can be fully functioning to protect Americans, especially as we are approaching this fall, the 25th anniversary on one of the greatest attacks that we have ever seen on our homeland?
Yes, Senator. I look at this as a political theater that we're playing games with, and we're risking people's lives, and we're disturbing people's lives. As I stated earlier, we have 280,000 employees in DHS that's still on the job, still working, still keeping us safe without pay. I don't know how in good conscience you could sit there and think that's okay.
It is not okay, and I look forward to your leadership at Department of Homeland Security. Thank you, Senator Mullin. I yield back.